You guys are listening to the Jordan Garber Now podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Tonight on the Jordan Garber Now podcast, I talk some wrestling news with none other than Noah Garber. We have a guy named Sal calling into the show, and memories are definitely relived with none other than our main event interview, an interview with none other than former Major League pitcher Shane Youman. And our wrestling interview tonight is none other than Moses Luke. It's all coming up next on the Jordan Garber Now podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Do you remember Real Aid Media? Well, the creator of that has another solution for you. Check it out. This is an emergency kit and a home safety evaluation for free. This kit has 180 pieces, such as a blanket, light stick, flashlight, cold pack, burn cream, and much, much more. This company is giving them away free to qualified homeowners, as well as a complimentary home safety evaluation for advertising purposes. The link available here is surveymonkey.com/r/204B. That's surveymonkey.com/r/204B. Check it out now. Are you that wrestling fan looking for that perfect television package to meet your needs? Well, Real Aid Media has the perfect option for you. With the Wrestling Box promo, you pay for the box for $199.95. After that, you're only paying $29.95 per month with no contracts and no obligations. Real Aid Media also provides marketing services operating in 5 countries. To book an appointment or to get your wrestling package, go to stevenbenzelock.bookify.com. That's Steven Benzelock at bookify.com. Check it out. Real Aid Media, providing great wrestling content for a cheap price. Are you a wrestling fan? And do you like collecting wrestling merchandise? Well, Hot Shots Retro Rewind and Wrestling Collectibles is the place for you. They have t-shirts, action figures, DVDs, and autographs available. Check it out. Hot Shots Retro Rewind and Wrestling Collectibles on their public Facebook group.
Newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
You heard them. Use promo code POWERSLAM now. Alright guys, this is none other than the Jordan Garber Now podcast. We got some news, and this time we have someone joining us, none other than the voice, Noah Garber. Noah, how you doing,
Sauce. Man? Going good. This is Noah G from the Sauce Wrestling Show. Want to do, I don't know, just take this opportunity to talk wrestling, but and do a little promotion here and there. Jordan, thank you so much for this invitation. I definitely appreciate it. But yeah, it's great. I'm doing good. It's a great Saturday. We got the return of Big Ten football here in the state of Ohio. So we got to celebrate the Ohio State Buckeyes celebrating a big win. And yeah, also we had a great week in wrestling, and I know we're both anxious to get into that and talk because we had an interesting week this week.
No, most definitely, we certainly did. And it does show that Rey Mysterio is expected to return to the WWE ring soon.
Yes.
Since 2002, Rey Mysterio has been nothing but a great force in the WWE and has proven to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. But with him returning to in-ring action, is it a good idea at his age, or is it a bad idea, or, is it something that we're just overthinking altogether?
I think it might be something. I mean, obviously he's talented in the ring, so much so that he's passing his knowledge of the ring onto his son, who is already, Dominic has already proved himself to be a force to be reckoned with in the future as well. And I'm interested to see what happens with him. We've already started to experience some friction in the Mysterio family. Possibly even in the future, Dominic starts to step away from the shadow of his father and kind of do his own thing. But no, I've been, a fan of Rey Mysterio ever since, I started watching wrestling. I kind of thought it was a joke back in 2011, 2012. I don't remember what year it was when basically it was during the summer of Punk. And CM Punk was the guy at that time, and he was the WWE champion. And they built the storyline around Punk leaving the WWE, so they had to crown a new champion. And what happened on Monday Night Raw? They crowned Rey Mysterio as the WWE champion, and that night he loses the title to John Cena. I think that was, that's just a brief memory of Rey Mysterio. And it's not because of his lack of talent. It's because the company doesn't take him as seriously as they ought to. Why? Because of his size. It's because Vince McMahon looks at short and small people as not underrated, but he undervalues them. Case in point, look at what they're doing with what is his name? You know what I'm thinking about. He was on NXT. He was like the North American champion.
Velveteen Dream.
Ricochet. Look at what they're doing with Ricochet right now. Here's a really talented individual who is from the similar experience, I would say, as Rey Mysterio. Ricochet was from Lucha Underground, if I'm not mistaken. And has experience from around the world, just like Rey Mysterio, and Vince McMahon does not see him anything more than a mid-card talent. But with Rey Mysterio, I'll just end the topic of conversation about Rey Mysterio right here. Do I think he should be given one more world title run? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. And it's all because Vince McMahon, I think, is more and more each day becoming more and more out of touch. I'm just gonna end it like that.
Let's talk about short WWE runs. And you know what? There's this one guy who is in the UFC that came to the company a few years ago that I really thought could have had a good run at it, but he wasn't booked properly. And I feel like if they brought him in again, he actually would pack a punch in. I'm sure you'd probably disagree. Most people would, because it's an underdog prediction. But Cain Velasquez, with a run such a short time in WWE, do you think that was his fault or the company's fault?
I think that was, again, if there was another story, if there was a good story that they could have booked him in, that's the thing that I think is lacking the most in WWE today, is good storytelling. They have 1 month spans because there's a pay-per-view every month. And then by the time the next month rolls around, it's a new opponent, new rivalry, and there's no storytelling whatsoever. The only exceptions to that rule we're seeing is with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, an ongoing feud that spans multiple pay-per-views, or Dominic Mysterio versus Seth Rollins, ongoing story, ongoing pay-per-views. I think if they would have booked him in a credible story and an ongoing story, he could have done something, long term. But I think they just brought him in for a short term. Also because Brock Lesnar, let's call a spade here, and it's Brock Lesnar with his the way he is in the WWE, which is when his contract expires, he just negotiates a new one for more money, and Vince has the brilliant idea to put the title on him each So I think they just brought him in strictly for Brock, strictly for Saudi Arabia, and just so that Kane could get some Saudi Arabia money. Why they never brought him back, I don't know. But to make a counter argument, it's not like they just hire these other athletes, such as former UFC guys or former athletes, and keep them from a short amount of time. Look what they're doing with Pat McAfee in NXT right now. I think what they're doing with him is absolutely brilliant, and he is has proven himself to be an incredible athlete. And he's also being involved in an amazing story with the Undisputed Era and the NXT. So I don't know. I think it's just a case of money, obviously, what the talent is willing to do and what the talent wants to do. So I think maybe with Kane, it was just like, I'll show up for one pay-per-view. I want to fight Brock Lesnar and then I want to leave. If that's the story, then so be it. But I mean, I don't think that instance, and I rarely say this, I think that instance is not Vince's fault. I think it's more of what does the talent want to do. And I think that's just what he wanted to do, is just have a WWE match with Brock Lesnar.
Definitely, without a doubt. What do you think of the whole Fiend and Retribution feud right now going on? Do you think that's a direction?
I gotta tell you, I love it.
Agree.
I love it. And shout out to Alexa Bliss. She's from her and I are from the same hometown. Shout out to Alexa Bliss. She's from the city of Columbus, Ohio. And I love her to death. And I just absolutely love what she's doing with her character right now. Love the alliance with The Fiend. With Retribution, I did not see that coming whatsoever with Ali being the leader. I think this brings more depth to his character. It brings more a new dynamic, a new depth to his character. And I think, and people can go on and on about how Retribution is like the Nexus 2.0, or just poke fun at it or just shit on it every single day. But the way I see it is, they're taking a bunch of talent that they had no individual plans for, and they put them together in a group. I mean, and I think it's working so far. Long term, I don't know. We'll just have to see whether or not WWE decides to scrap Retribution or not. It's on them. I think they're starting to build some momentum, and I think only time will tell. But again, with The Fiend, Bray Wyatt is an incredible worker. His character work is brilliant. I think he's going to go down in history as one of the greatest performers, and I would say artists in professional wrestling, because what he's been able to do up to this point is incredible. And again, with Alexa Bliss, I mean, one of the greatest heels in the business, and on top of that, she's expanding and exploring what she can do and create and being creative at the same time. And on top of that, shout out to the Uncool podcast that she runs as well. I am a listener, and it's awesome. So, but yeah, I'm a fan and I love it, and I hope that they do not lose sight of what's important here, and that they keep this going for as long as they can, and they don't just scrap it after a month.
You say you're from Columbus, Ohio, and you know what? Columbus, Ohio is a really good market of Jordan Garber now. A lot of Ohio listeners. Now, is wrestling strong where Columbus is? Does it have a strong independent scene as well as a major league scene?
See, here's the thing. I hate to admit this, but I'm not so much in tune with the traveling independents in Ohio. I do know that Ohio was the birthplace of Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, which was the developmental scene of WWE prior to NXT. OVW was run by Paul Heyman at one point. He wrote the television shows for OVW for quite a while after his days in WWE, post his ECW days. So OVW was like the stomping grounds for all the not the independents, but it was for the developmental of WWE. And that's as far as I'm able to go. But I do know that Ohio has been the birthplace of a lot of great independent talents, and I'm going to plug one of my good friends here, the Bad Reed, Myron Reed. He is somebody who is traveling the country right now. He's currently MLW's world champion right now, and he's from Ohio. And a person who I will back till my dying day to make it into the mainstream, whether it be WWE or AEW, or wherever he wants to go. And he has my support 100%, So when it comes to the independents, I think a great talent can come from anywhere. But if they end up coming from Ohio, prime example, Alexa Bliss, if they come from anywhere, or not just Columbus, but Ohio in general, you have Alexa Bliss, you have Jon Moxley, you have The Miz, you have Johnny Gargano, you have great talents that have come from this state. So I'm proud to live in a place that's produced so many mainstream talent, and not just mainstream, but up and coming talents as well. So. But yeah, I think a great talent can come from anywhere, but Ohio is definitely a good place to be and to bust your ass to make it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Definitely. Being from Ohio, like, what was your reaction when Alexa Bliss made her debut?
Here's the thing. I as I'm watching the events unfold on NXT, and she's getting the opportunity to show what she can do. Her run in NXT onto the main roster, the heel character that she has, making her debut. When you say debut, you mean her debut on the main roster or NXT?
Let's say both, the NXT and then the main roster. Were both reactions the same?
I would say I'll stick with the main roster. Here's somebody who really got the fans to hate her. She's one of the biggest heels in the company, and she's great at getting the fans to turn against her, and it's incredible. But yeah, I would say that my reaction to that was, here's somebody who knows how to do the job right, and she has not proven me wrong since. And like I said, love her to death, huge fan, and especially of what she's doing right now. So no, it was I'm happy, and also that she's also has had championship runs underneath her belt. I mean, she cashed in it. Who else can say that they cashed in a Money in the Bank briefcase on Ronda Rousey? No one. So I would say that I'm proud and I'm happy of everything that she's done since her mainstream debut, her main roster debut, and her work in NXT. It's a shame that she didn't get a run as NXT Women's Champion in NXT. But it is to be said that she's one of the WWE's most best female workers, and people shit on her every day for not being like a technically gifted grappler in the ring, but her character work speaks for itself.
Sometimes all you need is the crowd, and that's the thing.
Right.
Is a lot of people need is if you can entertain an audience and captivate, that's pretty much 90% of wrestling right there. And I'm not trying to cause haters or anything, but you know what? Part of wrestling is, can you work the crowd? Can you get that crowd going? And whether
Exactly.
Bliss is a babyface or a heel, she does it both ways. I feel she's really good at what she does. That's for sure.
I think I've always been told that the performer's bread and butter is their promos, and their bread and butter is also their character work. You can be fantastic in the ring, and here's where I return to my previous statement about Ricochet. He's amazing in the ring, very talented in the ring, but if you're not able to work the stick, as they like to refer it as, work the stick, and by stick I mean microphone. If you're not able to work the stick and cut a good promo as well as have a good character, you're not going to get over. But at the same time, the fans are still going to rally behind him and be like, why are they treating him so poorly? Well, that's the reason why. So, but yeah, I think, I would agree with that 100%. I think that, in regards to cutting a good promo, For me, myself, here's the thing, and I like to think about this a lot. When it comes to professional wrestling, I don't see myself as a wrestler. If I were given the opportunity to be anything in the WWE, it's not somebody who strictly works behind the scenes or an employee or a writer. I will write. I'll write the scripts if you want me to, but if I'm going to do whatever I want, I'm going out there each and every week, and I am cutting promos, and I am talking trash to whoever gets in my way, because I have a promo ready for everybody. So it's that's the way I like to look at things. To me, what convinces me is a good promo. What convinces me you're a star and that you're going to make it in the business is if you can get in that space, whether it's an interview segment or you're asking for a microphone and you can talk the talk and also walk the walk, obviously. Another prime example, and something that I wanted to mention briefly, the work that they're doing with Roman Reigns right now.
That's amazing. They're going off script.
They're not just going off script, but
they created it on their own.
Right. What they've been doing with him recently has been very surprising to me, but I'm also very happy because now we're getting to see what Roman can really do. And he's come back after the hiatus that he was on for a long period of time, and he's proven all the haters wrong. And I'm loving every single second of it. Him working with Paul Heyman and and with the Usos as well, kind of proclaiming himself to be the tribal chief of the family, and who's going to come knocking at his door come WrestleMania? His uncle, The Rock. That's a big prediction of mine, is that he's going to be facing The Rock at Mania.
That's a really good prediction, actually. That is something I could actually see happening in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, also, speaking of people who have proven us wrong, I think also the run that they've been doing with Drew McIntyre recently, him being the WWE champion right now, and he's been WWE champion since Mania, and he's been, basically
great run so far.
Yeah, pretty decent run. And considering, and this is coming from somebody who watched his first run in WWE, as the chosen one, Vince McMahon's chosen one, Intercontinental Champion, and and then he goes off and joins 3MB and then basically gets
mid-card status to nothing.
Right, exactly. But goes on to the independents, gains more experience, and gains his physique, and his presence in the ring changes, and comes back as a true big man. And now he's like the ultimate baby face and the champion, and he's basically carrying Monday Night Raw through.
And he had
this.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off, Noah. But he had a good run in NXT prior to that too, which was also amazing too. Sorry to cut you off there.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. That too, which also brought us the birth of the Undisputed Era. Don't worry, I haven't forgot about that. And one of the greatest factions in WWE history, I think. And don't even get me started on that, because I have my own conspiracy theory at large right now as to what's happening with the Undisputed Era and Pat McAfee and all that. I don't know if you saw NXT this week, but I thought I would take the time to share that. What do you think's going? And I'll ask you. I'll flip the script. I know this is your show. I'll flip the script. What do you think is going on now that Pat McAfee has made his return and he's been the one that's revealed as the one who's attacked? He basically attacked. He's the one that revealed himself to attack Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong. And what do you think they're doing with Pat McAfee and the Undisputed Era right now?
Well, right away, when you got someone attacking some of the top guys, you know that big things are coming and nothing's stopping that from happening. So I think with Pat McAfee, attacking, the top guys on the roster, what else does that show? It shows big plans and it shows a surprise. But the question is, what is it going to be? And for that, you never know what it's going to be. But I could see it being a potential push to the main roster if this momentum keeps up.
But think about this, though. So I agree with you, think about this, though. He attacks Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong, who's the one, and Adam Cole, baby, is nowhere to be found. Who's the one person he didn't attack? Kyle O'Reilly. He's the one person that was left unharmed.
I feel there could be a breakup here.
Exactly.
That's what I feel.
Big ding ding ding, like ding ding ding, like it's a key thing to identify. The one person that is not left like attacked and brutalized is Kyle O'Reilly. To me, there's too many red flags. To me, it sounds like Kyle O'Reilly is set to split apart from the Undisputed Era and join Pat McAfee. I mean, it's basically what they did with Seth Rollins and the Shield with Triple H and the Authority. You know, like I see like too many similar things happening here. And it just seems like this is a good thing to do storyline wise. So to me, that's what I think is going to happen. And I think that's what's going to happen in NXT, hence why NXT is the more superior show.
You know what? That's a really good way of putting it. It looks like you're one of those smart marks.
Right.
But you know it all, man. Like I said, when it comes down to that, like that's pretty good. That's a good prediction, and that takes a lot more logic than, to be honest, the basic prediction that I would come up with, and even on my Rob reviews, because a lot of my listeners know that I'm more of that interview guy. But now that I'm doing more news and doing it with guys like you that cover news mostly on your shows, it teaches me something and it opens my eyes, because for you guys doing those reviews, you're watching these shows every week, dedicating yourselves to watching that product. And I got to give you credit for that too.
Appreciate that, man. Question, I'll shoot another question at you. What are you thinking about this feud between Bayley and Sasha Banks?
I think it's going really good. You know, former best friends, classic scenario. Bayley and Sasha Banks, two of the best right now in the world, period. Charlotte Flair, obviously, up there is one of them, too. But looking at those two, I think they're going to have a great match. You know what? Too bad it's not closer to WrestleMania, because that's something I want to see at Mania for sure.
I agree with that. I personally, I don't think Bayley is going to come out of this one victorious because they've been pushing Sasha nonstop. And I think she's going to finally pick up a win in Hell in a Cell, because she's 0-2 right now in Hell in a Cell matches. So I would say, Sasha's going to come out victorious. And I'll just call a spade here and say that the only reason why Bayley has been SmackDown Women's Champion for this long is because Charlotte is injured and Becky Lynch is pregnant with a baby. I'm being blunted to a point. I'm just calling a spade here. It's just because, don't get me wrong, she's without a doubt talented, but if Becky Lynch if the man was still at the top of her game, at the top of her run right now, or Charlotte was running SmackDown, you would not see Bayley with 400. What is it? I don't know what the today, as of today, it's
pretty impressive reign. It is definitely over 400 days, I think.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it would be that long. It would have been as long as it is today if Charlotte and Bayley were involved. And also, let's not forget this. Who made their triumphant return to the ring back in 2016 on Monday Night Raw? I'll see if I can get you to remember this. There was a fatal four-way match on Monday Night Raw between Mickie James. It was Mickie James, Sasha Banks. I believe Alicia Fox was involved, and I do not know who the fourth person was. But one particular original from NXT made their return to the ring, and also two new people debuted alongside her on Monday Night Raw. I want to see if you know who I'm talking about, because I, without a doubt, have this person's, I'm supporting this person until the day I die. So I'll see if you can think of who I'm talking about.
I don't know. Trish Stratus made a few returns in the past.
Nope. It's Paige.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good prediction.
When Paige made a return back in 2016, man, that was one of the moments. She got a good pop.
She's a good
She had a great pop. Great pop, living legend in the industry. That woman deserves to be in the Hall of Fame right now because She was the only woman in history to hold both the NXT Women's Championship and the Divas Championship at the same time, multiple-time Divas champion. Should have had, a longer career in ring, and hopefully, just by some miracle, her neck heals and she's able to make a return if she wants to. But also one of the, will go down in history as probably the greatest SmackDown general manager of all time. She's obviously a genius. And what other woman in professional wrestling history can say that there's a movie made based off their life? No one. No. So I think she's a living legend, and she deserves that Hall of Fame ring. And I will go on. That will be, if I could pick my hill to die on, that would be it. And I will back that opinion to the hilt. So, but anyway, no. I think this. We have Hell in a Cell upcoming tomorrow. Going back to the topic of Sasha Banks and Bailey, we have a pretty hellacious upcoming match, this weekend, and it's gonna be pretty exciting. So I just wanted to see your thoughts on that, because Sasha Banks and Bailey are really turning up the heat.
No doubt about that. I'm glad I was able to give my perspectives on that, because I don't think I would have brought that up. And why is because I'm so into the big picture, but the little things when it comes to feuds like that, more people need to recognize that, because that is a big thing.
Right.
Are you been following AEW? Before we wrap things up, just want you to recap Dynamite, and then we're pretty much done.
Lit. So in regards to Dynamite, we had what is regarded one of the greatest segments of all time with MJF and Chris Jericho, with that steak dinner turned musical. I'll be honest, I was covering NXT that night, so I was unable to encapsulate the entire show, but I did go back and see that segment, and it has a lot of people buzzing. And it's been regarded as by Chris Jericho as the greatest moment in professional wrestling history, is that segment between him and MJF. And I have no doubt, I do disagree with him on that segment. I mean, I would say the greatest segment in professional wrestling history is when Stone Cold Steve Austin drove a Miller Lite truck out to the ring and hosed down Vince McMahon, The Rock,
oh man,
Shane.
That was amazing.
Right. Exactly. But in regards to AEW, the most over talent hasn't lost any momentum whatsoever, and that star without a doubt is Orange Cassidy. He, in my opinion, should be. I'd say if Cody Rhodes is going to drop the TNT Championship to anybody, it should be Orange Cassidy. Or if Jon Moxley is going to drop the world title to anybody, it should be Orange Cassidy, because he's the most over star in their company right now.
Most improved, in my opinion.
Most improved as well. I agree. On top of that, we have former WWE Tag Team Champions, as well as now the current AEW Tag Team Champions in the form of FTR, formerly known as the Revival, as their tag team champions, going up against the Young Bucks. And I don't remember if it's like a fatal four-way tag or something like that, what we have upcoming, but they're definitely building up this feud in regards to, the tag team division. And the tag team division, in my opinion, is taken way more seriously over in AEW than it is in WWE. Just because of the fact that they give more time to their tag team division, and they're building more of a story, which brings us back to storytelling over at AEW than WWE. The tag team division is taken way more seriously over there. Case in point, where they put in the titles on, the greatest tag team, and they're having a match that we've been wanting to see for so long, with FTR and with the Young Bucks. But yeah, in regards to what exactly happened on Dynamite this week, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna miss a few things are gonna fall through the cracks. But those are the things that, are catching my attention right now. John Moxley is doing an incredible job as world champion. You have Cody, who is holding the TNT championship for as long as he has, and then you have FTR with the tag titles. That is, those are the things that we need to be paying the most attention to, and those are the things that Tony Khan himself will be paying attention the most to. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about Dynamite.
Pretty much. That's awesome. That's going to wrap it up for news. But, man, Noah, thanks for being on, and we want to have you on again very, very soon.
Hell yeah. I appreciate it, dude.
Man, it is always good to have some good news, some good recaps. And you know what? That's why I bring on the likes of Noah Garber and many other great podcasters as my co-host, because they are the ones that deliver those news insights that I sometimes struggle to do. So I want to thank Noah Garber for tuning in there to the Jordan Garber Now podcast and obviously sharing his insights here for some news this week. We got a caller calling up next after this break. All right, guys, everyone's been excited about this contest for the Chris Jericho action figure. Everyone knows Chris Jericho is a hometown boy based here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Not born in, but raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So that's why I thought I'd get myself a Chris Jericho action figure to give away to our lovely audience. And I want to keep you guys in the loop in terms of prizes. I want you guys to let me know what is best. I have memorabilia cards, I have autographed cards, I have 8x10s, I have action figures. Let me know what you guys are looking for in a prize and what you would be investing in listening to a podcast to for a chance to win one of these great prizes. So let me know. Keep me updated on what kind of prizes you'd be wanting to win, and I'd definitely love to give away more. In the meantime, I did draw the winner, and it is none other than TJ Handergan, who has been supporting the Facebook page for quite a while. So congratulations, TJ. You are also invited to be on a future episode of the Jordan Garber Now podcast to discuss your victory. But TJ Handergan is the winner of the Chris Jericho action figure. Congrats, buddy. All right. So you know what? I had a great lunch at Zach's with my producer today. It was awesome. Had the double bacon cheeseburger with bacon, extra bacon, as you could say. And I even had myself a nice big Pepsi. And then we went to Long and McQuaid. Tried to get some, like a sock or something, like a windbreaker for my microphone. It was an awesome afternoon. So, for me, life has been good. But life has been better for the show because I'm bringing our callers back, man. Like, this is back in full effect. Because without our callers, we have no show. And no, I'm not going to have people flushing the toilet anymore. But I do have a good friend of mine. He does listen to the show a lot, and his name is Sal. He calls in all the way down the other neighborhood from across the whole city of Winnipeg. It's Sal. Sal, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Jordan. Very happy for you to have me on today. Thank you.
It's great to have you call in. You know, most other callers I have in they usually tell me to kill myself or, drink a bottle of bleach or, kind of like just sleep in a hole. Many things, but you bring a wide perspective, and at least I'm hoping that's the case. You could flush the toilet at any time, but I'm hoping you're not. But what's your question? I'll get right to the point.
Well, I'll try to refrain from flushing any toilets as I ask my question, but it's actually a two-part question. The first part is it's a political question a bit. It's about one of the rallies that recently happened for the Vice President Mike Pence in the States. Just about the fact that at one of the rallies there was a reporter who was actually kicked out because I think it was because of what he was wearing or something like that. But apparently he was a reporter from Kazakhstan, and I was just wondering what your take on whether that was politically a good move or why you think Pence would kick someone out like that. Like, it just seems silly to me, but wanted your thoughts on it.
Well, let me take a nice solid hit of my vape here first. 50 Nick, by the way, guys, Ghost, strawberry banana, it's the best.
50 Nick.
I just gotta embrace that. Let it go right to the brain. Perfect. Now, Pence doing that, he may have been a genius. Why? Is because conspiracy is all around the world sometimes. People are fucked. So, when reporters like me, I'm saying this myself too, because I'm a reporter, I want the nitty-gritty. I want the dirty. I want the deets. And I will do anything to get that. So, I think Hunter Pence, sorry, not Hunter Pence, he's a baseball player, Mike Pence, throwing him out was just like the Royal Rumble, pretty much, and, battle of survival. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's funny that you bring up conspiracy because that actually connects to my second part of the question, because that happened. There's actually a conspiracy theory that's been building online. Take it with a grain of salt. It's online. It's a conspiracy theory, so you know how that is, how reliable that is. But the theory is that the reporter, because there was rumors that the reporter actually had a gift for the vice president. He was trying to give him a gift, of all things. Now, I don't know if that's related to why he was kicked out. But
was it an Applebee's gift card?
I'm actually not sure what it was. He got kicked out, so I don't think we got to find out what it was. But the conspiracy theory building around that was that it was actually potentially a move from the government in Kazakhstan who was trying to get to the vice president and actually infect him with the coronavirus because the reporter had a gift for him. So that's the conspiracy theory. I was just wondering what you thought about that particular theory. I don't know. It's kind of out there, but people are talking about it.
You know what? In this world, you gotta balance apples with oranges and bananas with whatever the fuck else there is. When it comes to a situation like this, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what happens because eventually aliens are gonna come and take over. And in the next 75 years, there's gonna be no more Hunter Pence. There's going to be no more Mike Pence. There's going to be no more of that. There's going to be aliens and there's going to be artificial intelligence. That's what I'm not kidding about, is AI. Is that what it's called? Those robots and shit.
Artificial intelligence.
And
AI.
Take over China. Because China is the king of the world right now with power. But once the guys take out China, look out. So it kind of makes us wonder, maybe China should be in charge. It's scary. It's a scary world, man.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I agree with some of that. By the way, kiwis. Kiwis are what you balance out bananas with.
Yes, bananas and kiwis. I also have like a bottle of fruit punch here of juice. So I'm going to name you. I have watermelon. I just drank. Wow, I drank 2 liters of juice in 10 minutes.
I hope it's not vape juice you're drinking.
Oh, I hope not. Or vodka juice. But we got watermelon, pineapples, cherries. Oh, there's so many I could have. Kiwis, grapes. Wow, tons. What's your favorite fruit?
My favorite fruit? Oh, it's got to be a tie between watermelon and kiwi.
Really? Like, I remember, like, when it comes down to kiwi, they have that really sweet taste, and they're really, really good. But you know what else I also like?
What?
Reese's peanut butter cups. They're so good, man.
That's funny. I was just having one about an hour ago. I bought one of those 10 packs, but I don't think Reese's peanut butter cups are classified as fruit, though.
No, but peanut butter is considered a nutrient. It's good for the organs, it's good for the brain, and it's good for, I don't know what the fuck it's really good for, but it's good for you. And that's what matters when it comes to peanut butter, that's for sure.
I've heard it makes a good sunscreen, if you don't mind flies.
Oh, yeah. Well, if I don't want to go all the way to Senegal and put peanut butter on me and get flies eating me, because that's where those flies eat people up there. Anyways, what else was I going to bring up here? I think you talked...
Well, we can... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I actually totally forgot what I was going to say. You can go ahead, totally.
I was just going to say, the checklist of things to talk to, you can cross off man-eating flies. We've covered that.
Yeah, they eat you. They eat you, man. It's crazy. But, some people want to go to New York City. I want to go to Senegal. Even how you pronounce it? I don't know. But sounds fun. Sounds like a family vacation.
I don't know, but it sounds like a good time. Just watch out for the flies, I guess. Bring a big fly swatter.
Flies, yeah. For sure. I also want to go to Cyprus. So I want to go to Cyprus. That's another place, as well as Kenya.
You want to do a lot of traveling, eh?
I do, especially now. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, that's the worst time
Well,
to travel.
cheap flights, I guess.
What else should we talk about? Well, you know what? Since this is a show that we have all ages listening to, but it's a form of legality, and this is a marked explicit show, or however you say that word. It means that swearing's allowed, and topics are allowed. And I know that you, Sal, are a big supporter. You like strains of marijuana. If you wish not to answer, that's totally fine. But what's your favorite strain of all time? If you could just go down through that, because I never talked about marijuana on my podcast that much.
Oh, for me, I definitely just flavor wise, I'm gonna say Dongo. It's a sativa, tastes delicious, tastes like limes or lemons. It's bright green, love it.
I love it too. I love Gorilla Glue as of late. I've really been enjoying Gorilla Glue. It really helps me with my shows and produces what I like to produce, or however you talk.
Nice. I don't think I've tried that one before. Maybe I have. I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe a little too much for me at the moment, but I just dropped my vape too. But yeah, I enjoy Gorilla Glue. I enjoy all kinds, man. Strawberry banana is a strain I think I tried too, so it's really good. What do you think about CBD and overall health benefits? Has that helped you personally, do you think, the CBD components?
Yeah, I find it's really good for just, before bed, for sleep. And it works fairly well, too. I get some back pain, so it does help with that, for sure.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoy CBD, too. Especially the CBD oil puts you right to bed. Just chugged water down the wrong damn tube. You gotta take over here, Sal, quick. Well, I cough.
Okay. All right. So just so everyone knows, it's not healthy to inhale water. I would highly recommend against it. I believe Jordan would also sign off on that if he's still alive.
Yeah, don't try.
Are you still alive?
I'm still good. I'm still good.
Okay.
Man.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. So that's the PSA for the day.
That is. That certainly is. It always it spreads an important message when you're on the show. Anyways, Sal, we enjoyed it. This marks your debut, and I want to have you call again soon. We'd love that.
I love listening. For first time, long time. I'll definitely have to call in again.
Sounds like a plan. Are you looking for the best vehicle for your needs at an affordable budget? Well, Hickman Auto Sales and Financing has exactly what you're looking for. Choose from a wide variety of vehicles like the 2012 Hyundai Tucson GLS, the 2016 Chrysler 200LX, and the 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe. All trades are accepted and paid off, and child tax, pension, disability, EI, social assistance, or self-employed are all approved. Low payments of $0 down. For more information, call 204-898-3511 or visit HickmanAutoFinancing.com. Tell them Jordan Garber Now sent you. Alright guys, coming up next is a great interview with Winnipeg wrestling veteran Moses Luke. It's all coming up next on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Alright, this is the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and we are here with none other than the German juggernaut, Moses Luke. Moses, great to be on the show, man.
Good evening to you all there.
Well, you have had a great history in the world of Winnipeg wrestling and wrestling across Western Canada. I remember the first time I saw you was in the year 2009 in the promotion Ring Masters Entertainment. I believe it was called Ring Masters Entertainment at Vince Lee Community Center. And Since then, you've been an absolute dominant force, in my opinion, as a fan, in Winnipeg wrestling. Talk about the early days, though, when it all began for you. With training in 98 with some great talent, including the Fairlanes, but then debuting, not debuting, but starting out in River City Wrestling in 1999. That was a really hot scene for independent wrestling and Canadian wrestling in general in 99. So how was that for you?
99 when River City was like the hotbed, I guess, when it started up again. I kind of stepped in on the I think it was like the second or third show when they were coming back, all surely because my good friend the Big O was on the show and was asked to find himself an opponent because he wanted to wrestle a match instead of just being Ronnie Attitude's manager for the night. So I got a random phone call, went down to the infamous training center down on Sutherland for all the Winnipeg guys that have gone through that place. Very creepy place.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's quite the, it's a contracting, works for a contracting company now, but it was just like a scummy building that the ring was set up inside. Went down there, had a match with my buddy Owen there, and I think it was Dirty Dick Walker that was there when he was still wrestling as JJ Pincarelli. I think Mike Myers was there and Wayne, and they were kind of evaluating to see what they wanted. Then they seemed to like what they saw, so I literally was booked on the show coming up, and this was all after, Jesus, I guess, training at CWF training camp for a while too. Before that, when I broke my ankle in the ring, taking a clothesline on a loose canvas. Oh man, that was fun. And then before that was even when I actually started wrestling in January '98, like you were saying there, for BSW Body Slam Wrestling out in Selkirk, Manitoba.
How are the crowds back in Selkirk in 1998 compared to the Steeltown days? Was there a big difference?
To be honest, it's pretty comparable. About the same kind of idea. A lot of family, a lot of friends at that time, but I don't know. Yeah, I'd say about the same. A lot of energy from the crowd. There's only a handful of shows, I guess, really, when I was out there before we got picked up by the Cwf Training Academy there.
And how was your experience with the Cwf Training Academy? Any guys that you worked with there in training that were some highlights to you in your career?
I guess honestly, the training class that I was in when I went in, it was about what was it? It was beginning of June of '98 when we went into the training class there. And only reason I remember exactly the month was the factor that I just turned 18, because I had to sign the infamous Ernie Todd waiver to be able to to do this without my parents' permission, because I clearly wanted to do this behind my parents' back, because my parents were very disagreeing with me and wanting to be a wrestler and so forth. So I trained there. I had a lot of fun there. The class that I remember from the guys I remember that were there all the time, guys like myself, Ronnie Attitude, the Big O, Spider was in that class as well.
Oh, nice. I like Spider.
This one guy, if I remember him, his name was Rob. I don't think he did very much. He was he used to be an amateur boxer or something like that. And yeah, that's about all I can remember out of that class. But yeah, I had a lot of fun there. I learned a fair bit. Different guys used to come in and, you used to take your licks from everybody, just like the old school guys did all the time. I remember infamous chop drills and so forth, where they kind of just test your mettle a little bit, see what you can take. Because like I've said before, it's a business where it's not for everybody, and if you can't take a couple licks, it's probably not a business for you, right?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Talk about the history of Chalmers Community Club and the crowds working there. What were the crowds there like in the late 90s? Because that was a hot spot for Canadian wrestling as a whole. That was mentioned a lot in the media. So what was it like working there with RCW? I know I was talking about it more, but more as a venue standpoint with the audience. Looking back, was it hot at the time still, or was it just kind of lower crowds?
Chalmers was always kind of an interesting thing. It's one of those weird little niche places for Winnipeg wrestling when I came back to the community club wrestling days. And RCW had a good following there. That place was generally always packed. Even when we switched over, when Bobby started promoting in Top Rope Championship Wrestling when we were there, you know what I mean? Same idea. The place was still filling up. It was always one of those places where everyone loved to gather. And that weekly Wednesday spot, I remember all the time being there. And I always enjoyed my time there, because I guess that's really where a lot of guys that came out in that '99 crew really kind of cut their teeth and honed their craft, I guess.
What about like sorry about that, my mic was turned down. But what about Bumper's Bar? You know, that was a really good one too, wasn't it? Back for Bobby's promotion as well. Any fun memories you could share about that place?
A lot of fun memories from Bumpers. Mainly some stories that happened afterwards, but probably not the most appropriate.
Hey,
ones.
it's you can share whatever you want, but it's to your discretion, obviously.
But no, a lot of good times there. We were kind of a little reckless at times there, and at first when we were first there, that place was always jam packed with people and just like bloodthirsty, if you will, because I know Wayne was pushing a lot of the hardcore stuff, which is where I got kind of tossed into the circle. So a couple night after night of going down there and just kind of beating the living hell out of each other with whatever we could find kicking around the venue, right?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Remember what was his name? You probably had some good memories with him there. He was Bugsy Slug, I think.
Oh, Paul. Yeah, Bugsy Slug. Yeah, I don't know how much he did at Bumpers. I remember him a lot more from like my Ringmasters days and stuff when I was over there, because he did a lot.
I remember
over there
him.
With him.
He was Paul.
Yeah,
was he Paul Ranville or was he Bugsy Slugliano?
But it would be Bugsy Slug that he would be wrestling under. Paul would be his legitimate name.
Oh my goodness, Jordan Garber journalism, everybody.
We all learn things on our way.
Oh, absolutely. But Winnipeg wrestling was. Did you enjoy being a part of like the hottest time, or do you wish you were kind of around in like the late '80s or early 2000s to debut, or do you think because you debuted at a very hot time? Did you know that at the time, or are you just looking back at that a few years ago?
Yeah, I guess kind of when that kind of time when a lot of the guys in Winnipeg were coming up, it was a hotbed. There was like people were really thirsty for wrestling at the time, and like that transferred over to pretty much every venue you went to around, and like even in the early PCW days when we were running the lid every week, like weekly shows there and filling that place up every week to the point where you got to turn people away at the door. Like that kind of shit's cool. And like being a part of that was fun. You know what I mean? It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of cool stuff we got to do, and just I know that having that kind of crowd all the time, and just they were thirsty, they were loud. You know what I mean? They wanted to see it, and something about that, just when the crowd's hungry, it just makes you want to work harder, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt about that. And PCW too, starting out in 2002, you were there in the beginning. And
Yep.
Can you kind of recall some of the good old times at the Stratosphere there?
Yeah, like again, same idea there. Like it was a good premise that they had at the beginning. Like everyone had good intentions, but you know what I mean. Like it I don't know. A lot of things fell short. But, you know what I mean? A lot of empty promises came to the boys at that point in time. But the thing is, overall, the experience, I still wouldn't trade it around, because like it was a good time. Just being able to make the friends with different people, and like I'm trying to think of the best way to put this, and just kind of experience that environment, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's just adjusting to different environments at different time points. And what was it like, because when you debuted in PCW too, that you had a great run in Top Rope Championship Wrestling at the time. So, debuting in PCW, was that quite an adjustment for you, or were you really enjoying the beginnings of PCW? Because you stayed there, pretty much from that point on to now. So that must have been an amazing company to work for. So I guess my question in the long run is, if you could point out like some good memories overall in PCW, 2 good points of your career that pretty much made it for your legacy in PCW, what would they be?
I guess like when PCW started and stuff, Owen and myself were getting pushed pretty hard as a tag team, and it was really a lot of fun to be able to do all that kind of stuff with my childhood friend that like we grew up together, like we've known each other since we were like knee high, literally, to the point where we got to be on such a stage. Like at commencement at Cool was probably one of the more fun times I've had, let alone the fact that I could barely walk out of the rig afterwards. But you know what I mean? When you're about to come out and you're hearing the crowd, like the biggest crowd you've been in front of ever, just so pumped, and just like you feel the entire environment around you shaking. I remember I was pretty nervous coming out that time, and I just kept telling Owl constantly, I'm like, just keep telling me it's gonna be okay, man. We're gonna do this. And he's like, just do it, man. We're gonna be fine. And I remember going out there, and just the pop was amazing. And I guess that match right there is probably one of the quote unquote like memories of PCW where it kind of like really made it for me, I guess. Otherwise, besides that, there's a lot of other stuff I've done throughout it, but I'd say that was probably like the top one for me, I guess.
Awesome. What about working? What was it like working with some of the? You're around during the hottest time when Robbie Royce was like a top prospect in Canadian wrestling, and you had some great matches with him in PCW. Can you kind of reflect on some memories working with him in those early days?
Yeah, like I don't know. I've never had a bad match with the guy, to be honest. Every time we always got in there, we gel very well, and it's always good to have an opponent like that, because it's like having someone who you can counter very well brings out the best in you sometimes and the best in them, and you end up with a much better match in the end. And I feel a lot of the time, at least when I get in there, that's usually what we can produce when we're put up to it, right?
No doubt about that. Talk about. You also did a lot of good stuff for. You did some tours for Real Canadian Wrestling as well, with the Dogs of War, none other than Steven Styles, and some other good memories there as well. Talk about the Alberta crowds, because Alberta's a really hot market in Canadian wrestling. So were the crowds like a little different than the crowds that you'd have in Manitoba, or are they pretty much the same, or can you kind of elaborate on that?
I really enjoyed I was going out there for a number of years there, and yeah, I really enjoyed my time going out to RCW in Alberta. The crowds are always great out there. The fan interaction out there is a little bit different, but you know what I mean. At the same time, things are kind of the same, because fans are fans either way. They love to come out to the shows. The appreciation, I guess, is a little different. A little bit of the age category, I say, is maybe a little bit different. I find it's a little bit of an older crowd when you're going out in Alberta. You know what I mean? Instead of that more younger crowd that I find that happens in Manitoba whenever, whenever they're able to actually have shows at community clubs or so forth, where the young ones are kind of allowed in as opposed to bar shows, right?
Yeah. Would you prefer is there an adjustment that you have to take into play with a family show and a bar show in terms of in-ring psychology and working the crowd? Because every crowd's a different crowd that you have to work in front of. So was that an adjustment for you, working bar shows for the first time after family shows?
100%. It's always a little bit of an adjustment when you think about it, just because your audience is completely different, right? You gotta cater to a little bit of the more bloodthirstier crowd when you're at a bar show.
Definitely. I remember refereeing my first bar show, and the whole match, it was full of comments, people saying the craziest shit, and it was like a rush. It was absolutely unbelievable, and it's definitely an adjustment you have to take into play, and it's something that takes a lifelong thing to adjust to, maybe at times. But there's a big segment we like to do here on the podcast called the Top 3. And then we'll just go on to CWE. But I like to go to the top 3 quickly. In-ring chemistry. In terms of in-ring chemistry, who are 3 guys that you could say that you had the best in-ring chemistry with throughout your career?
Best way to put this. Myself, like I said earlier, myself and Royce, I don't think we've ever had a bad match getting in the ring together. So I'd have to say the chemistry is really good there. Anytime I've wrestled the Big O, just surely because, we've known each other since we were little kids, so what the other guy's thinking before he's even thinking it, and it makes for really easy impromptu things to happen when that goes. For a third one, it'd be a bit of a tough pull here because there's a lot of guys that like I don't know. I seem to gel with a lot of people in the ring, and it's a tough one for number 3. I guess, you know what? Honestly, I could probably throw Joe into that from Regina. You know, he may potato me a little bit too much once in a while, but I don't think he and I have ever really had a bad match either. And every time we step in the ring, whether it's in tag matches or singles, and we've wrestled like over multiple provinces for multiple promotions, and I don't think I can say we've had a bad match either. So I guess we'll put him on number 3.
Definitely. Ringside Wrestling, too. I forgot to mention that. You know, how are those crowds out in Regina? You had some cage matches out there, too, I believe. How was that all? How was that experience?
Oh yeah, man. The Regina crowds are a good crowd. It's a good following. And again, like out there, there's not a whole lot of wrestling going on, so you know what I mean. They're they're hungry when they're there, right?
Definitely. I remember I refereed my first match I ever refereed was for HIW, and I got pantsed by Michael Allen, Richard Clark, and the whole crowd laughed at me, and it was pretty embarrassing. That was my experience, and then I never refereed in Regina again. And now I'm sitting in this chair. So
it's way worse.
Yeah, man, definitely.
I know there's if you want a way worse story, here's a quick one just to intersect. Here's something way worse. Being a guy that's getting suplexed, and this happened in Alberta, and I'm going to leave names out of this, but a guy suplexing another guy, and all of a sudden he's up in the air, pulls his tights a little bit too tight, and all of a sudden his junk's hanging out. Now, would you rather have your junk hanging out, or would you rather just get pants quickly?
Oh, man, I'd rather get pants quickly.
There you go.
How would the crowd react?
There was a lot of pointing.
A lot of pointing. I could only imagine how someone like Tony Candelo would react to something like that. Like if he was giving you some feedback.
I picture that right away.
Did you end up doing anything for Candelo?
Oh yeah, I've done some stuff for Candelo too. That's I love working for Tony. He's a good character.
He's amazing, man. He ended up being one of the coolest people to work with, and just it was a crazy doing the Death Tour when we almost fell through the ice. So I always say that on my podcast. I always bring up that story once a month. I think I was in the car with Massive Damage and a bunch of other guys. Massive Damage, Tony, and a few other people. And we almost totally fell through the ice. And thank goodness the RCMP saved us after 2 or 3 hours. But when they say Northern Death Tour, it's like walking out of the door and then going into -50 weather and almost like dying within 2 minutes. It was brutal.
It's no joke, man. It's no joke, that tour, man.
Did you end up doing any of those?
Once. No, unfortunately, I never actually got the I had the opportunity, but the 2 times I was booked for the tour, I got bumped off of them for other people. So not much I could do about it. Well, it was what it was. I still remember the phone call I got from Tony explaining it to me. He's like, well, fucking Don needs his guys to be on the show, and that's what I got told. So.
Case closed. Did he say case closed? Or?
Yeah, well, that's just how that's literally how I got it told. I'm like, Don needs his guys to be on the show, so I gotta bump you.
Oh, man.
No, if it was no offense or anything like that, and I get it, no ill will or anything. Shit happens, you know what I mean? And I was low man on the totem pole at times. It's not like I was, as established as I would be later on, right?
But what were some of those like summer shows like? Because I know you definitely did a few of those, and that was a fun experience too. Because those were at least 3 shots at a time, so you still did a tour.
Oh yeah.
So how was that?
I've had good times on all of Tony's shows. Like just everywhere we've gone, they've all been wonderful little reserve shows up a little bit further north. But yeah, I can never say a bad time on those shows. It's always nice to be on those ones too, because usually get to see a couple of people you haven't seen in a while, just because he pulls in a couple of people from another province here and there. So I get to reminisce with some people you don't see every day.
Definitely. Like there's Massive Damage. I was shocked. I haven't heard that name since 09, 010, and working with him was definitely really awesome. So.
Sean's a good dude, man.
Oh, he's a great guy. He was on this podcast as well. He shared a great 46-minute story. He spoke in front of some crowds and everything. shared his story about his pro wrestling career. And you know what? If you could just go back and watch some tapes, I could watch some of them all night for sure.
Here's a Massive Damage story for you. Then, first time I wrestled in Regina was against Massive Damage. And
wow.
It was, I got randomly thrown into the ring, got told I was doing a hardcore match after traveling out there, and still only got like maybe a couple years in the business at this point in time. And like, I've seen some of the stuff he did before. I was a wee bit nervous before the match, getting told that, oh, we're going to be doing a hardcore match. Okay, we don't have anything to use. Okay, well, let's walk around this place and find a bunch of stuff. We ended up finding like a random table from the venue, and then this very, very stiff trash can lid, and then my infamous cookie sheet that used to travel with me all the time. So that was literally the only items we had for this crazy hardcore match that was supposed to happen. And then that was also I'm not sure if he told the story about him the first time when he jumped off the U-Haul truck onto somebody on the table. That happened to be me at the I think it was the Tartan Club or something like that in Regina, the arena for curling out there, and jumping through me, and I was just like, all I could see was this giant man on top of a U-Haul, and here I am, this green rookie, laying on this table, praying to myself, oh my God, I hope he doesn't fucking kill me. He came through that table and actually cracked my back, felt amazing. Unfortunately for Massive, he ended up with like the most giant welt on his thigh from the edge of the table that literally was from like his knee to his hip.
Holy shit.
I think he used that clip on his old school ECW demo tape that he sent out to them a bunch of times too.
that is the man. Talk about paying dues. That's pretty tough. That's crazy.
It was a good time,
bro.
That would have been, I believe, 2000 or maybe late night. No, yeah, it would have been 2000-ish. Because it was myself, Rob Stardom, literally right out of training was with us, and Bobby J, myself, and Mentalo. We all traveled out there for World High Impact Pro Wrestling when they were still known as WHIP before it became High Impact.
Oh, okay, WHIP. I remember that actually. That was the beginning days of High Impact Wrestling, and it grew ever since. Until they did fold, but you know what? They did have quite the amazing legacy, and that's where it all began for myself. So that was pretty awesome. I love the crowds of High Impact Wrestling. There's never one dead crowd for those shows.
Yeah, no. When I did go out for them on other occasions too, where I traveled with Sanchez and Chevy on it a couple times there, we always had a good time going out there. And again, that Regina crowd, They are pretty hungry crowd.
Yeah, Regina, they definitely are. Tell us more about Sanchez and Chevy, the big sexy beasts. They were a really hot tag team back in the day, and you had a few matches with both of them. How talented are the both of them if our listeners don't know already?
Well, I don't know what can't be said besides watching these two and actually in the ring. They very naturally take to wrestling. It's effortless when they're in there, kind of when they move. I guess honestly, like I don't think I've ever really had bad matches with either of them either. You know what I mean? Like we gel very well, and it's always a good time being on the road with those guys. Like I'm sure there's been lots of stories told of this and that and whatever, but I don't think I've ever had a bad time on the road with them, outside or inside in the ring.
What are some examples of, things that referees should work on and do properly in the ring? What are the things that the referees are lacking nowadays in terms of in-ring work to improve the match? Because, like Massive Damage told me, a referee can make or break the match. What are any experiences that you had with any wrestling referees? Like, I know there was one time, an honorable mention could be the time where we worked a match together, or we didn't work a match, sorry. I refereed a match you had with Jay Walker, and I was the referee for that, and I look back at the tape, and I remember that finish. So that would be kind of an example of a mistake. But from more of a standpoint where referees mess up all the time, like what are some things that referees are lacking nowadays, and what are some things that they could improve on?
I think the most infamous one that I've seen on countless occasions are referees not counting the 3.
Oh, okay, that was me.
You know
that
what I mean?
Us.
Well, in that sense too, but I mean, just in general, like, it's always something we've always said. You know what I mean? Make sure you're always counting the 3. Don't be that guy that stops just because you think that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Always count the 3. It's up to us as individuals to make sure if that 3 happens or not, right? So if the guy's shoulders down, they're down, man. You know what I mean? Plus that, and just I find the best thing for a referee is just to kind of step and try to stay away from everything, but at the same time still be in the midst of everything. It sounds
like
kind of
that
strange.
part, yeah, like ring position.
Just kind of keep your distance in the ring, but at the same time, when you're going down for pins or going in to check on a guy, to be in the right spot. You know what I mean? You got to be able to see the shoulders. You got to be able to see if the guy's being choked, et cetera, in that sense, right? And yeah, and counting evenly, I guess, is the other one. Even pace, always an even pace, because you count too fast, you count too slow, it just starts sounding silly. Nice even pace, and that's everybody's happy, right?
No doubt about that, and that's what I ended up learning is when you come down to that, like you just count the 3 because there's no wrestler that's gonna get mad for counting the 3 because that's on them at the end of the day. That's for sure.
Bingo, 100% every time.
What are some matches like? Let's kind of talk about both of us as fans now, watching matches and just growing up watching matches. What was just one match that just made you just want to do this? Or what was one match that at a time in your career you weren't really feeling as passionate about the business anymore, but it sparked your interest again? Is there any matches like that to you that kind of come out as an highlight?
Man, it's there's a lot of stuff that comes to mind. I don't think the passion's ever gone in that sense because I know ever since I was a little kid, I was always watching wrestling and this and that. It was just it's always been kind of part of my life. You know what I mean? So like big matches for me, like things like Hogan and Warrior the first time was kind of cool because it was the whole build up behind it, right? And I know a lot of kids like around my age at that time, that were watching wrestling. That was a big deal if you, were on either end, if you were an Ultimate Warrior fan or a Hulkamaniac, right? And you and your buddies are always yelling at each other and being like, hey, there's no way Hogan's going to beat the Warrior. Oh, no. And, constant schoolyard back and forth. Another, not so much of a match, but also when tag teams broke up, like when the Rockers broke up. I remember that one a lot too, because again, myself and the Big O, we were big into tag team wrestling, and they were one of the ones that we followed a lot of. And I just remember we used to be kids and super kicking each other in the back of the school bus all the time, doing stupid things like that, reenacting the infamous quote unquote barbershop scene where Michaels kicks Jannetty's head off and puts him through the window, right?
I don't think anyone can forget that moment. That goes into time. That will be etched into time forever. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, stuff like that. Those old school segments, Piper smashing Snuka over the head with the coconut. That's another one I don't think I'm ever going to forget. I find a lot more stand out for me, maybe not so much the matches, but some of those old segments. You know what I mean?
No doubt about that, yeah, for sure. A lot of old segments were definitely etched into time and made history.
Yeah, exactly. Like the 80s and maybe early 90s, things like when Andre turned heel on Hogan, tore the cross off his neck, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Those WWF days, that was a big thing when I was watching when I was younger. And just stuff like that, or what was it? Earthquake, when he first came into WWF. And squishing Damien on the Brother Love show or whatever it was.
That was a heel. That was a heel.
Yeah, those segments are the ones I think, stuff like that sticks out in my mind. I think way more than sometimes the actual matches.
Have you
but then
been?
you.
Oh, sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No. Go ahead, man. It's all good.
I was just gonna ask. Have you been watching any episodes of Dark Side of the Ring?
Oh, I love that shit, man. Those are some amazing ones. I've watched the whole series.
No, they really are amazing. And there's one episode I kind of want to refer to because it's an infamous episode. I never would have recalled the story like this. Herb Abrams. Do you remember that episode? That's probably the most bizarre one ever. Can you imagine working for a promoter like that? Like, holy crap. Probably, you never know. Maybe you did. But, like, like that's what a fucked up story.
There's a lot of interesting characters out there, I'll tell you that much.
But it just shows that wrestling, I don't think there's any business that can match up to the bizarreness of pro wrestling, and that's a positive thing to say. It's like you'll never walk in. It's like walking to an underground world almost. You know, your whole real life disappears and you're in this whole other world.
I would tend to agree with you. It's a really good way to put on it. The wrestling world is kind of its own little world. And like, you know, some of the stories you hear, like I said earlier, it's almost like that rock and roll lifestyle, right? Like it's it is, but it's not. But at the same time, it's just some of the stuff you hear, you just wouldn't hear anywhere else unless it was coming from some sort of wrestling story, right?
Yeah, definitely. Any fun ones you want to share, like on the road or anything that you could share with our audience before we let you go?
I don't know. I think a lot of the stories that I have might incriminate too many people on some things. So maybe nothing I can maybe share in public. But if anyone ever runs into me in private, I'm always full of stories.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Any PG stories?
Offhand,
Carl's Jr. There's Carl's Jr. You know, I've seen you and Billy Blaze enjoy. How about share the experience? What menu item should I get? Because it's really good there, man. I tried it once and I gotta go again.
Hey, I will say this much: that is a regular stop for us in Regina all the time, and I think it's rather funny. We still need one in Winnipeg, and it's very sad that we don't have one.
We do.
But for a fast food chain, I would say they have a good quality burger. If Carl's Jr. wants to sponsor me, I'm fully aware of that. If you're out there listening, for a slightly PG story for you from back in the day, I'll give you this one. This would be back in the Bumpers days. Myself and another individual took the time to fill a certain person's suit full of shaving cream, like every pocket that we could physically find, and violate his gear a little bit with some other items that we found.
Yeah.
And this was sort of a regular hazing for this poor gentleman, shall we say? And it wasn't too bad in that sense, but it was definitely a fun time doing that stuff and kind of giggling along with that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't think I ever got shaving cream. Thank goodness that wasn't me. Yikes. That's crazy. Shaving cream. Can you imagine walking in the ring, cutting a promo, not even knowing it, and then all this white shit comes out of your suit just looking like marshmallow cream or whatever? Oh, I couldn't imagine. Could have
been worse, my friend. It could have been worse. It's shaving cream is the least offensive liquid that could have been inside of that suit.
That is true. It could have been much, much worse. Now, where can people follow you on social media? We have a lot of listeners, 25 plus countries, so everyone wants to be interactive and stay in touch with our interviewees. So where can our crowd follow you?
I think I do still have an active YouTube channel that may have a couple things, but if you're looking for anything from me, just search up the German Juggernaut, Moses Luke, online. There's a Facebook group for sure that's on there, a fan page that's out there. I believe there's a YouTube one, and I'm sure there's some links that follow up to other places. Check out the Ringside Wrestling YouTube page as well, and I know they're on Facebook as well. I know I'm out there a fair bit. PCW Wrestling here in Winnipeg. They're on many platforms. I'm pretty sure they're across the board through Instagram and everything else. If you look them up, I'm sure they come up fairly easily. And yeah, that would be anywhere. If you're looking for me, that's probably the easiest places to come find me.
Definitely. Well, Moses Luke, it was great having you on the program, my man. I wish you all the best and stay safe out there.
All right, man. You have a good one.
That was none other than a solid interview with none other than Moses Luke. But coming up next is the big one, our main event interview, and that is none other than Shane Youman. Coming up next on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and I am here with none other than former Major League pitcher and Pittsburgh Pirate, none other than Shane Youman. Shane, how you doing tonight, man?
Jordan, man, I'm doing all right. Had a busy day working with a few kids at my indoor baseball facility, but definitely making time out to hop on the podcast, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. Let's get right into it with the indoor facility you're talking about. What's that all about, and how long have you been running that for?
So, since I retired back in 2017, I've always wanted to do something and be able to give back to the youngsters playing the game of baseball. I started out doing some stuff at the Texas Rangers Youth Academy, and then went from there to started doing some private lessons. And just over the years since then, it's been about 3 years. Over the years, the client base has grown. I've become more passionate about helping youngsters learn the game and further develop their skills. And as I gotten to know people down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, my name starts to travel a little bit. People start recommending me or referencing me to others about doing pitching lessons, and clientele has grown a whole lot, not only from the teaching side, but the consulting side and the mentoring side. And I just felt it was time for me to go ahead and break loose and find a place for me to be stable and have a one-stop shop when it comes to all the things I'm doing with baseball and the youth out here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And what I realized too is you feel so good when you give back and you teach all the knowledge you learned through all those years. And when you started out,
definitely,
it's amazing because it's great to all that time, from 2002 to 2016, all of that from what you learned from the Penn League, New York Penn League to the majors. It all is giving back to the kids, the community, and aspiring baseball players and stars. And that's how we see some big names in the draft, coming up, because baseball leads by generation, and there's a lot of that passes on through learning and teaching. And one thing we learn in pro wrestling that it probably applies the same in baseball is the one day you feel like you know everything, get out of the door. Just walk out the door. Does that apply in baseball as well, that term?
I mean, not necessarily, not in those words, but you look at it from the standpoint, Jordan, of, you mentioned from 2002 throughout the duration of my career, which came to an end in 2016, 2017. But I'm sure just like the pro wrestling side of things happen way before then. I can say from 1985, when I first put on a baseball glove and stepped on a baseball field, that started because, we all get out there to have fun, and maybe it's our parents that just signs us up for a particular sport, whether it's wrestling, hockey, football, baseball, basketball. They want us out the house. They want us to be active. They want us to use that energy and generate it towards something else, as opposed to just running around the house terrorizing stuff. You know what I mean? But that starts, and then the dream happens to where you might see somebody doing the same thing that you're learning how to do, and you take a liking to that person and you follow that person or persons and try to emulate your game or your style after them. You're learning. That's where the learning process starts, and you continue to grow. I would say all of those things started from the very beginning with me. Everything that I learned from day one until the time I retired is what I'm pouring back into the community and the kids that I've come into touch with to help learn the game of baseball. So it's just the history, just like your love for wrestling. It started beyond your podcast, right? It started way beyond your podcast. It started a long time ago. So it's grown into something big now for you, and you're still looking to get bigger. So that's how I see it from the baseball standpoint.
And that's an amazing way to put it. And in terms of evolution and learning yourself early in your career, you won the College World Series in 2000 with the LSU Tigers with the likes of Brad Hopp, Brian Tallett, who's another great pitcher, Ryan Theriot, and Mike Fontenot, as well as many other great people. Trey Hodges as well. I believe he was he won the most
MVP.
MVP, yeah. So how was that, man? Just the college years, not just all the partying and stuff like that in terms of a Division One college, because there's a lot of those times we don't want to talk about. But just being able to play in a Division One solid competitive conference, you cannot prepare for the minors more than that. And you know what? When you make it to NCAA Division One, that means you're on the right track and you're in that draft. The major leagues is already on your eye, and you might get selected. You might be that one, and that was your case. So, what was it like, man? That whole 2000 year.
So just as I stated a little earlier, Jordan, man, when it starts out at a young age, you're playing for fun, you're loving the game. I'm originally from Louisiana, and occasionally, back probably in the early 90s, 4 or 5 years into my youth career, we watching the College World Series on TV. You see LSU. Well, that's an hour and 15 minutes away from where I grew up in Louisiana. You see those guys every year in the College World Series, winning national championships or competing for a national championship at the very least. So that inspiration comes. Now, I want to go to LSU. I have those dreams and aspirations of winning the College World Series. So when that dream became a reality and I found out, hey, that school is actually interested in you, although I was drafted out of high school, it was a no-brainer for me because I just watched them win back-to-back championships. I watched them win 4 championships in the last 8 years. I'm going to that school because I can identify with those players because a lot of them were local Louisiana guys, and I would watch them on TV every year. So to go there and to be around the guys that you've named that were part of the championship team with me in 2000, man, it's so many names that we can go on and continue to list that came through the program even before the 2000 team that has some type of bearing on my career, has some type of motivation or provided some type of motivation for me to go out there and be the best that I could be. I know you mentioned parties, but we got to definitely talk about the college parties, Jordan, because that's all part of the gig. But anyways, that year was special, man. We started off hot, lost 5 in a row, fans booing us. We thinking our season's going to be cut way short. And then that turns into us winning the SEC, going out there and winning the SEC tournament and just kind of going undefeated in the postseason and completing a dream year by winning the College World Series, man. It's a surreal feeling. It's been 20 years, but when you think about it, it's always something new that comes to mind that we accomplished that we didn't even know or didn't even think about at the time. So that's just kind of how it goes, man. When you get locked in and get in that zone, it's nothing that can come and get in your way and keep you from doing whatever it is that you're trying to do. But we also had a family atmosphere. It was a brotherhood, so that played a huge role in us winning the championship in 2000.
Now, let's talk about college to minors where, every single year you evolved into 2006 where you debuted for the Pirates. But first year, 2002, Williamsport 4-0, 37 innings pitched, 37.1, and 48 strikeouts. More strikeouts than innings pitched in your first season. So what was it like at the end? Let's talk about the end of 2002. What was your objective? And did you have anything in the tank that you were hiding? Because 2003 and 2004 and 05 were even better.
Well, for me, and you mentioned going from a big-time Division I program and into the minors. But when you're playing in the SEC, especially back when I was playing in college, the Southeastern Conference in baseball, it was always compared to, and now we use aluminum bats, so it's a little bit different, but with the aluminum bats, they compared the SEC competition to AA competition. So you're playing at a high level every weekend, no matter who it is that's coming into town or no matter who you're traveling to play, you're playing at a high level. So the mental side of the game, which was huge for me in going to college, that played a huge role in my development into a professional. Physically, I had certain tools and was able to do certain things, but the mental side of the game is what helped me elevate my game all the way around. So that played a huge role in me going into Williamsport my first year in pro ball and adjusting to certain things that go on. Had great pitching coaches in the minor leagues with the Pirates to prep me for that season. Had a great pitching coach who was Scott Emerson. He was my first pitching coach in Williamsport. He's now the major league pitching coach for the Oakland Athletics. He played a huge role in my development and getting me ready for that year from spring training on through the duration of that season. So I have to give him a lot of credit and taking time out to help me develop certain skills that I didn't even know that I possessed. And it all started to, come out that season and beyond.
What were some, ballparks in the single A and double A system that you kind of enjoyed playing at? There's a lot of great venues out there.
Man, so to start, since we were on the New York Penn League, enjoyed going to Brooklyn because the stadium was in Coney Island.
Oh, that's awesome there.
Also Staten Island. Yeah. Also Staten Island, who were the Yankees. The Yankees played there. So going to those two places were neat. Staten Island, we can jump on the ferry and cross over into the city. And then, like I said, with Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Mets, being on Coney Island, it was kind of a nice little vibe going on there. Single A, not too many ballparks that I would have liked. Going to the city of Augusta, knowing that the Masters were always held in Augusta every year. So being in that city and that atmosphere around the time that the Masters were going on was kind of cool. High A, going to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for sure, for a lot of different reasons. And then double A, yeah, definitely. But Myrtle Beach, you walking across, and it's all the clubs and all of that in the between your hotel and the field. So you already know where I'm going with that, Jordan. So we won't jump into that. We won't jump into those details. But double A was cool. Going to New Hampshire, playing at home in Altoona, Pennsylvania. That was always a great experience. Erie, Pennsylvania, Reading, Pennsylvania. All of the spots in PA were pretty cool to go to and visit. Also AAA Indy, playing in Indianapolis. We played in Ottawa. I had a great time in Ottawa while I was in AAA. Other than that, maybe Toledo. What else? Another place, maybe Louisville, Kentucky. Those places were cool to go to, and every big league city is great. So I don't even want to start naming those, but those are just a few places I enjoyed going to through my minor league career.
Man, I remember best major league experience I had. Actually, you know what? I think I watched you. I don't know if you're on the roster, but that's when I saw my first major league game. Was in 2006. The family took a trip here from Winnipeg to Wrigley Field. Man, that was a dream come true. Me as a fan.
Was it in September? Was it earlier in the season that year? Do you remember?
I remember there was a lot of hype on Greg Maddux at the time. And
yeah.
I think that was September. That might have been September.
Because I got called up that year, and I didn't pitch, but my first big league experience was at Wrigley. So
wow,
you might have been at the game during the time I got called up. Even though I didn't pitch, I was there. I was on the team at that particular time.
You're in the clubhouse, or you're like in the dugout. Dude, man,
exactly.
That's awesome. You know what?
It's crazy.
As a fan that loves the game, I do remember that first time, and I want to give a shout out to my dad and my uncle that were able to get the tickets for that, because you know what? I remember Pittsburgh played, and it was like walking through a time machine. When I walked right into Wrigley, it was literally like a time machine, going back into 1920, 1930s. Like, you could almost imagine the history going through your mind. So, what was it like when you're suiting up as the opposing team? I'm sitting there in the stands. You probably were there, my first major league game. So I'm sitting there in the stands having this experience. What's your experience as a player putting on a uniform?
Man, it's classic because you think about the work that you put in and how you have to be consistent and persistent in order to get there, because not everybody gets to the big leagues. We know that.
It's
not
hard,
everybody gets there, so it's very hard. Like you said, it's difficult to do.
So many levels you have to go through, I feel. That's what makes it hard. There's rookie, A-, A+, double A, triple A,
all
major.
of it.
And then there's winter ball too.
Exactly. So think about all those things, and for me, our season was over in AAA, and I'm just sitting down eating, and hey, you're going to the big leagues. You're going to Chicago tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I froze, man. Like, I didn't know how to react to that news because I wasn't expecting. I was having a great season and I was hoping, but I wasn't expecting to get told at that time. So to go to a place like Wrigley, it's a legendary stadium. It's a legendary atmosphere. It's a legendary neighborhood when you talk about Wrigleyville.
I
So to
love it
be in
there.
the midst of that, exactly, to be in the midst of that is kind of cool, man, to play at a stadium like that. I took a piece of ivy off the wall. That was part of my souvenir that I took away from my first big league game. So took that and just kind of I took it all in, man. Just breathed in the air and just looked around and enjoyed the atmosphere and what was going on. So it was a blur. I can only remember certain things. I can't remember a whole lot, but I definitely enjoyed being in that big league uniform because it's tailor made to your body how you want it. So it's not a minor league uniform where you got to take what they have. Big league uniform, you got your name stitched in your pants. You got the exact size you want for whatever you want, however you want your pants to fit, however you want your jersey to fit. It's tailor made, so
In the
it's
minors, you have
definitely a good,
to.
comfortable feeling.
Yeah, absolutely, and to have that name stitched in at the top level absolutely is something, especially in the minor leagues when you used to have to go to Walmart or not Canadian Tire, but none of that there, but Walmart or Kmart to get a belt for your uniform. Some teams are good, some teams aren't have as much money, so from going from buying belts to having everything custom made must have been quite a pleasure. Who are some guys you enjoyed
Oh,
playing with in their first few games there? You played 5 games in your debut season, so who are some players that you kind of just remember enjoying playing against and playing with?
I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I'll name, a couple guys that got me my first two suits. Solomon Torres, who was a really good closer at the time. He got me one of my first suits. You're talking about Sean Chacon. These are guys that I never came up with through the minors that the only way I could play with them is at the major league level. You're talking Freddie Sanchez, Jack Wilson, Jose Castillo, rest in peace to Jose Castillo, Adam LaRoche, who I played summer collegiate ball with. We're teammates at the big league level now. You looking at Jose Bautista, who I played with in the minors, Rajay Davis. It's a lot of guys. The list goes on and on. But we had a young team, and to see guys work hard and finally get to where they wanted to be. As I mentioned, the Jose Bautistas, the Rajay Davises, talking about Paul Mahalam, Tom Gorzolani, Zach Duke, Matt Capps, all those guys I've seen, we all grinded it out in the minor leagues. And for us to meet up at the major league level at a certain point in our careers was kind of cool to see. And I know I'm missing some guys, but the Ryan Domits, guys like that I enjoyed being around when I came up in the big leagues.
So when it comes to like a merchandise perspective, teams come out with trading cards. Hey, by the way, shout out, get the Jordan Garber Now trading card. But you got
That's what's up.
that's what's up. You got the real deal though, man. You got Upper Deck, you got Topps producing cards actually being part of a set and signing a contract. Now, I don't know if you don't have any certified autograph cards, but you do have some serial numbered cards, some rookie cards, like quite a few major league cards produced. So when that first card came out and you got the call for that, was that an even bigger dream come true, or is that just second nature, part of the job?
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Just think about, I don't know how old you are, but I know you're much younger than I am, Jordan. I grew up collecting cards, bro. I grew up collecting baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards. We used to trade them. We used to go to the card shop and try to sell off some cards, so on and so forth. So for me, a kid that used to walk to the card shop, a kid that used to get in trouble in class for wheeling and dealing, trying to trade cards,
Me
to
too.
actually have your own baseball card, man, I'm still scratching my head about that today. So just imagine, and even with me, I do a podcast now. That's one of the questions I ask on my guests. Would they rather the video game or the trading card? It's 50-50. For me, it's the trading card all day long because it's something I grew up doing as a youngster. Now I have my own, just like you got your own, buddy.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
it's,
I
it's
do.
surreal, man. It's crazy.
It's a dream come true. I didn't really. I kind of did it from a merchandise and advertising standpoint. Yeah, I didn't really earn it as much as you did. But hey, I debuted in wrestling in 2008, and I was in a battle royal. And then we got to interview some great names, including yourself. So I guess why not? I'll take it.
Yeah, you might as well do it. You gotta definitely brand yourself. So however you need to brand yourself, hey, let me go ahead and do what I need to do to get my name out there, so I can get more traction with this podcast and whatever else I'm doing.
Man, how is like when you're in the middle of it with Pittsburgh, like in the middle of 2007? We'll talk about Korea later, but how was like 2007 for you as well? Because now you have more games under your belt, and you're playing at PNC Park, and people are starting to know your name more and more each day. You're on fantasy baseball rosters. People have their eye on you. When you're in the majors, even if you're not the top relief pitcher or starting pitcher, you're still on people's fantasy team. Like when I do my fantasy baseball, fantasy football. So, like, what's that like? Actually producing pretty good numbers, and being on the fantasy stats and things like that, and actually getting into it in a major league career. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was tough. It's crazy. I never even thought about fantasy at that time. I was so focused on making sure I solidified my place on the roster as a dependable guy, whether I'm starting or relieving. It was a tough go at the beginning because I didn't make the team right out of spring training. I got called up soon after. So it was a bummer for me not to make that team because I thought I was doing everything that I needed to do in order to have a place on the opening day roster. That didn't happen. Again, it was a tough start for me, but then found my groove and was able to get back up there and join the team and contribute. So once that happened, things started to get a little bit better, and I was able to excel on the mound. But again, the business side of things kind of took over, and some changes were made based on my role that didn't sit well with me, but it affected me from a mental standpoint and affected the rest of my season. And we talk about mental health all the time, Jordan, and that's the first time I had any type of encounter with some mental health issues based on things that were being done in the sport of baseball at the major league level when it came to Shane Youman and what he was going to be doing as a ball player. So, um, again, I enjoyed that season. It was a lot of accomplishments that were made, not only from me, but from the team. Continue to build bonds with players, but that year definitely took effect on me, a huge effect on me mentally. And it's something I had to deal with and battle through for the coming years after that. But to answer your question, great year. I was able to do some things, like you mentioned, fantasy playing, fantasy leagues and stuff like that. Being able to contribute to some guys or girls who had me on their rosters was cool. But I know I dealt with some things that was a little bit tougher than people maybe thought I was going through at the time.
No, absolutely, and everyone has a story. You know what I mean, and that's what people have to understand is like every single person has a story, and no one knows.
Indeed.
No one knows which story is what. But you know what? The Atlantic League, me as a Winnipeg Gold Eyes fan, this league, it should be there. It deserves to be there. But this league, they take our major league players sometimes. But it's all good. I love the Atlantic League. It's an amazing.
That's the part of it, man. That's all part of it.
That's all part of the independent system because the Atlantic League is a higher independent level. For instance, like local wrestling here. There's an independent wrestling league here, but there's going to be a big one in New York City. It's still independent, but it's like a higher sort of level. So at Atlantic League, they produce so many major leaguers, and I think they just partnered with them now. They were the first to partner. They're a partner league. Same with the American Association. Did you hear more about that, actually, before we go into that?
I knew a little bit. I think it was 2019 when the Atlantic League was starting to experiment with some of the rule changes that MLB would possibly consider implementing into their games or to their league or what have you. So I didn't know how far along they were in a partnership or how much they'd work hand in hand with certain things, but I do know that much that MLB would start experimenting with certain things through the Atlantic League and make decisions on bringing it into the MLB moving forward. That's all I knew about that.
Speaking of experimenting with things, I see a lot of this on the independent level. I don't know the status of it in the major leagues right now. I think there's only a certain amount allowed. But did you chew when you played ball? And if you didn't, or even if you did, who are some other players that like chewed the most tobacco?
Man, I don't even know. I couldn't tell you who chewed the most tobacco.
Silly question, but just out of curiosity, like who is a big chewer? Because like that shit is strong. Sorry, that stuff is strong.
It is strong. You could, I guess, I don't know if you can cuss on your podcast, man.
Yeah, you can. It's totally all good. But like, I couldn't imagine on a sunny day, you know, chewing tobacco or chew or snuff and putting it under my lip and then running in the hot sun and like, you know, having to make some solid defensive plays.
Oh,
like, it amps you up though, probably.
It's a learned behavior, man. It's something that you have to practice. I couldn't do the tobacco to dip. You know, occasionally once a year I might have one, but I had a bad experience in college, so I stopped with the dip. But I would chew the red man, the stringy stuff. I'd wrap that in some gum and do that because that doesn't give you that buzz. But, you know, a couple times a year I'd do that. As far as somebody that would chew a lot, man, I don't know. Like, I can't really pinpoint a guy.
What a bizarre question.
that I would say, you know, he had to have that dip, man. I don't know. I mean, the only guy I could think of right offhand would be Sean Chacon because I never thought he dipped. But he definitely would get a dip in every now and again. And when he got one, you know, about half the can. So you know, it's guys like that you see occasionally might do it. You know, your Ronnie Paulinos, who's a catcher with the Pirates, guys like that, man. But I can't really pinpoint anybody that I knew did it, and it was like, dang, bro, you spending thousands of dollars a year on dip. Why? Nah. But I did it occasionally, though.
Well, we'll just say Ronnie Paulino. I apologize. What a great, bizarre question, but it's pretty funny, that's for sure. But how was the Atlantic League? You know, your first season there, because that is quite a transition.
It's definitely quite a transition after being in the big leagues the previous year and being with the Phillies for a little while before getting released. It was tough for me. Probably something that I shouldn't have done right offhand and just kind of wait out and see what would happen from affiliates. It was tough, man. Kind of cool because the competition was very high level, and like you mentioned earlier, a lot of big leaguers playing in that league. So it was cool in that sense to be playing against certain guys you may have seen on TV and stuff like that, or maybe even faced in the past. But from a mental standpoint, I just wasn't in a good place when I got to the Atlantic League, to tell you the truth. It wasn't until I was there for a couple of years where things started to unfold for me, and I was getting better from the mental side of things, and I was able to have fun and get back to doing what I did, what I knew I could do on the baseball field. So it was a tough go, man, but to kind of play against that competition on a daily basis, it definitely kept you on your toes.
Now, I want to kind of, before we talk about the CPBL, I kind of want to talk about these winter leagues, you know, in Venezuela, in Puerto Rico, and in the Dominican Republic. You know, playing in all those major markets is still a huge standstill, and they take baseball just like they do wrestling very, very seriously. At least in Puerto Rico, they take wrestling very seriously. So what was it like, you know, playing in the winter leagues as well? Are there a lot of eyes on you, or are you just focusing on your development?
Oh, definitely. I went there early on, Venezuela, to get more experience after being in the big leagues. You're seeing the best players from that country play because their fans, their hometown folks, they don't get to see them play during the summertime because they're in the States playing. May only get to see them on TV occasionally, but maybe not. So for those guys to have a league to come home to and play during that time is huge, not only for them, but for the fans and the people that support them from their native countries, especially like I said, the Venezuelans, the Dominicans, those places. Puerto Rico is a little bit different being a U.S. territory, but even in Puerto Rico, you see that, and you see those guys play a little bit harder and do a little bit more because they want to put on a good show for the fans that don't get to see them in the summertime. So it's highly competitive. If you're coming from the States or any other place to play, you got to have your A game. But it's more so for you to get better as a ball player, learn certain things or work on certain things that you may need to improve on. Or you might have guys looking for jobs, such as myself playing in the winter leagues, the years I played in Puerto Rico, the years I played in the Dominican. I was trying to get back into affiliated ball or get overseas, Korea, Japan. So you see it for different reasons. But that's why those leagues are so competitive, because you have guys out there that are hungry, that are not satisfied with where they are, or trying to find a job somewhere.
Now, one question I like saying to a lot of wrestlers is, what is it like working in front of certain crowds? And you know what? You are kind of, in a way, as a player, working in front of a crowd, especially a hometown crowd. And talk about, the dynamics of just working in front of a crowd as a baseball player in general, and then watching yourself do that all the way from college up to the majors. Was there any nostalgic effect in terms of that?
Well, I would say I'd answer it like this, Jordan. In my opinion, playing at home, I think it's a player. I won't say a player, but for me, I have to control my emotions, control my adrenaline, because you're playing at home, a place you're used to being at. You got the hometown crowd going for you, so you're going to have that excitement. You're going to have a little bit of that anxiety. You're going to have that adrenaline rush. So in order for me to excel on the field and do my job, at home, I have to be able to control that, right? I have to be able to control that. On the road, for the most part, the fans are against you. So for me, I feed off that. I feed off that negative vibe, or that vibe of the opposing crowd being against me and wanting to see me fail. So that focus for me, I'm focused, because I want to go out there and do my job and shut them up. So at home is controlling emotions. Okay. On the road, for me, it helps me focus, because I know they're against me and don't want to see me do well.
Now, what was it like, playing in, you played in Korea, but first playing in China? They're playing for the, what was it, the Monkeys. How was that, man? That's a crazy, we talk about transitions, the Atlantic League is a whole transition, but, when you're talking about going now from the Atlantic League, which is still U.S. ball, all the way across overseas, like, whoa, man, like, that's crazy. So what was that like for you at the beginning?
At the beginning for me, leaving the Atlantic League, as you know, the independent leagues, you don't make any money. And I was at a point in my career, Jordan, man, I had to make a decision: either shut it down, finish school and get a job, or do as much as I can and get an opportunity to get overseas if I'm not getting any attention from the affiliated teams in the States, major league teams in the States. So the opportunity came for me to go overseas, to go to Taiwan and play. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, man. I'm not making any money. I don't have any money. So I'm getting an offer to go play and make a nice chunk of change. So I'm back on my game. Mentally, I'm strong. I want to take advantage of it. But when I got there, definitely eye-opening. Way different from being in Venezuela or Puerto Rico. I'm in Asia. I don't know how many hours away, 12, 13-hour flight if I had to get on a plane, or when I did get on a plane. So it was a business trip for me, though. I had to stay locked in and stay focused and bring over what I was doing in the Atlantic League. And that's just what I did. I had tunnel vision, because I knew I wanted that to grow into possibly getting an opportunity in Korea or Japan based on how I finished the season off in Taiwan. So, yeah, it was eye-opening. A lot of things that I saw caught me by surprise. I was kind of a deer in headlights, but I kept things in perspective and knew I was there to take care of business to hopefully get a better opportunity the following season.
Before we go to the Giants, best Mexican league ballpark you played in?
Man. I would have to say
Tabasco? Or maybe probably Mexico
no.
City, or Monterrey was the biggest one, I think. The biggest stadium.
Yeah, but it's another place I'm thinking of, and I can't call out the name, man. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
But and it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't call it. But I know that the city was real green. Everything was nice, but
Southern
I
Mexico?
can't call out the name. What is it?
Was it in southern Mexico?
I want to say so. Yeah, it wasn't too far from Cancun, I don't think. So I think it was called Merida, but the name
I
for
found
the
it.
team, I forget the name of the team.
I think I found it. Meridia. Let's see. You might be referring to Puebla, Aguasente. There's a North Division and a South Division.
Yes.
Veracruz,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's the South Division for sure.
Veracruz,
That's where all the good stuff at, man.
Yeah, Tabasco. I always found. Did you ever end up playing there in Tabasco? Because that's pretty far south in Mexico, and that's near the jungles and everything.
Yeah, nah. I don't think we traveled to Tabasco when I played.
It's really far south.
We didn't travel there. Yeah, we didn't travel there.
No, there's there was definitely in the South Division. I'm thinking you're referring to Puebla or Oaxaca or Carmen.
There you go, Puebla. Yep, that's the place.
What made the stadium there so nice? Just the crowd, the feeling off the crowd, or just the area?
I just think just the environment, the area. Like I said, it was green. It's green. You see a lot of trees, everything. It's just the nature.
Niger Morgan was on that team.
Area. Yeah, Niger was a baller, man.
Willie Tavares too, Ruben Rivera, Carlos Quinton, all those guys played on that team.
So Jordan, you mentioned dip earlier. That would be a guy, Niger Morgan.
Niger Morgan,
when you're talking dip, yes, huge dips.
What year was that freak out that he had?
All the time.
Do you remember that?
That had to be when he charged the mound.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember watching that game.
That was probably 2009, 2010, somewhere around then.
Man, it just seems like yesterday. Those times just fly by.
Yeah, that guy ain't scared. He's a hockey player. He's a hockey guy too.
Yeah, he does like hockey too, actually. Very talented ball player.
Definitely, man. But yeah, that's the dip guy. I didn't think of Niger, but yeah, if you asked me about dip, Niger Morgan.
Definitely, man. That's really cool. How cool was the Giants in Korea? You played 3 seasons there, so you're loved by the team and the organization and all the fans there. So, making a name for yourself in Korea, that for a wrestler, that's like going to Japan and making it big. So, how was that for you?
It was great, man. I think Taiwan prepared me for Asian style baseball, but I was kind of skeptical about Korea at first because I thought it would be the same as Taiwan when it comes to the atmosphere and the food, but I was sadly mistaken. It was definitely much better. But for me, the team, everybody welcomed me with open arms. It was huge that I had a guy, the other foreigner that was on the team. He had been there two previous years, so he helped me to adjust in a major way. If not for him, I don't know how well it would have gone for me. But to say that the team welcomed me with open arms, I had a guy with some experience there to take me under his wing and show me the way. It was an unbelievable experience. I miss that place all the time, especially Busan, South Korea, which was the city that the Lotte Giants played at. Southern part of the country reminds me of being in Louisiana, and I live in the southern part of my state. The way the people treated you, the fanfare, so on and so forth, it made for a great experience for me.
Any good Korean barbecue you had down there?
I'm not a big Korean barbecue guy. I like some of the other food
Southern barbecue
in Korea. I'll do it it's a social type deal when you're doing Korean barbecue,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll do that for that standpoint. But if I had to pick a certain type of food, a certain type of Korean cuisine, it wouldn't be my first pick. Wouldn't be Korean barbecue.
Well, when you try new things, you acquire new tastes, and you just probably fall in love with new sorts of entrees and things along those lines.
Oh, believe me, man, and just little stuff like I said, having those teammates that welcome me in, them taking me to different places, having a guy from the States that had been there two years prior to, kind of showing me the ropes. That helps open up your I guess spread your wings and expand your horizons with trying different things and going different places.
Definitely, and it's culture shock too. I remember doing the Northern Death Tour and going all the way up north to work in front of crowds and be a referee and do shows was crazy because far up north things are more expensive, and it's definitely a culture shock. So when you're even going to different states and playing in different leagues, it's different because the southern part of the United States is a little different from the Midwest in terms of food and stuff like that. So doing all that across the world must have been a great thing for you. But that's
for sure, but a great experience.
Most definitely, and I'm sure you wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But you'd made a transition. You made a transition from baseball player to podcaster. You currently run your own podcast. I actually listened to it. Charlton Jimerson, solid outfielder, one of my favorites. Watching him play. How did you want to do a podcast? Was it for the love of the game, and you still wanting to be involved?
Well, it was for a couple of reasons, man. One, I've always kind of admired the media side of things when it comes to broadcasting and doing pregame, postgame analysis and things of that nature. So it was an idea that came to mind a couple of years ago, and it actually was going to be geared towards former LSU athletes, like a where are they now type situation. But I didn't know if that would be a conflict of interest with the university, so I kind of just let that fall by the wayside. And then when COVID-19 shut us down and we sitting in the house not doing anything because we can't do anything, the thought of a podcast came back to mind. And I did a podcast prior to and mentioned to the guy, hey man, I've been thinking about doing my own. So he encouraged me and gave me that extra motivation to go ahead and start. I had a lot of time on my hand because I was in the house all day, and I just slowly but surely started doing some research and getting just enough equipment to get going, and came up with that idea of League Talk, the League Talk podcast, where I would interview current and former athletes, no matter the sport, and just kind of find out about their journeys and making it to the highest level of their sport, and just talking about those experiences and things that they're doing now if they are retired and stuff like that. So that's just kind of how it all came about, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, do you follow the current baseball product right now? Do you currently watch the majors that you follow this season?
Somewhat. I didn't follow this season. It's just not the same. Not being able to have fans, it's just different. It's just been different. I didn't watch any sports. I watch football right now, but basketball when they restarted the season, baseball, I didn't watch it. I don't know. It just was a different vibe, and I wasn't too interested in it.
I really hope this coronavirus thing, man, just ends, because as much as it's affecting wrestling as a sports fan, because that's always been what I love from the get-go, sports, I'd always watch the games. And now that's even being affected. Everything in our world is. So I'm not the one to, panic about it. I just follow the rules and do what the rules say. But at the same time, how is this changing sports altogether, and how can the sports world recover from this after this pandemic is all settled?
Oh man, it's changing. It's affecting it in a major way. Obviously, some places allow fans, but it's only, let's say, 25% capacity. Louisiana, they're playing sports in Louisiana, but no fans can attend the games, especially with the football season going on. You know what it did to the NBA. Even though those teams are playing, it's just taken away from the fan experience. obviously some money, dollars, and stuff like that, it's affecting it all in a major way. And I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world that's lost interest in watching the sport since this pandemic has hit. So you're looking at that too. You know, not many people are watching it even on TV, let alone being able to go to the games. So it's not only affecting sports, it's just affecting the world in a way that we didn't think. Especially with you, Jordan, being from Canada. I'm sure you guys live like we do. You know, it's supposed to be a land of the free. You know, we should be able to do whatever we want when we want, go wherever we want when we want. We can't even do that. So it's like we're in shackles. You know, we're on lockdown for whatever reasons, or it's almost like we're kids again. We can only do so much unless our parents allow us to do something else. That's just kind of how it feels, and it shouldn't be that way. So I don't know what could be done to alleviate this problem, and obviously get sports to being what they used to be. But it's going to take a lot of work from us all to get things back to normal, what we knew as being normal.
No, that's true. You know, they had things going on with H1N1 and SARS in the past, but you know, even at my job at the call center, I've even asked people, just random people on the phone, you know, what are your thoughts on this? Because I would talk to seniors and I would be like, you know, you as an 80-year-old person, is this the worst thing you've seen? And some said no, most said yes. And you know what? Either way it is, you just got to prepare and do the best you can to protect friends and family and obviously yourselves. So that's the only thing you can do, right?
Without a doubt, man. Without a doubt.
But who are some players like you enjoy, you know, before this whole pandemic hit? Who are some players that would stand out that you really enjoy watching like nowadays?
From the baseball standpoint, man, without a doubt, easy call, Mookie Betts. I mean, he should have a couple MVP awards instead of one MVP award right now.
I agree.
But we're not gonna get into that. I love watching Max Scherzer pitch, David Price. You have a couple guys, Chris Archer. I like watching him play. Nowadays, you have Tim Anderson emerging as a star for the White Sox. A couple other guys, man. Your Bryce Harper, your Andrew McCutcheons, former Pirate himself. Just to name a few, man. I like the way the game's going right now. You got some talent at the major league level, young kids doing some big things. So just hope the game continues to grow and guys can continue to do what they're doing without any restrictions when we're talking about this COVID-19 and limiting us in what we can do on a daily basis. But just that's just a few guys that I like watching.
Definitely. That is, I like watching a lot of players as well. You know, I like Chris Schwarber. I think he's okay. Like,
yes.
You know, I haven't seen his numbers as much lately, but I always enjoyed watching him play. You know, if you want to go for some old-time players, we were talking about it earlier in the podcast. One of my favorite batters is actually Ryan Braun. I remember him. He's one of my favorites. And Vernon Wells. And I'll say why Vernon Wells is my all-time favorite player.
Yeah.
Although I do have a Gaylord Perry autograph I'm sitting right next to, which is pretty cool. But when I talk about Vernon Wells is because he was awesome in Toronto. This was right when he got traded to the Angels. And you know what? In sports, there's autograph collectors and autograph seekers, and I'm not so much into it anymore. I'll do it for some giveaways for our audience. But I was literally another fan handed the card to Vernon Wells, and he recognized me, told me to throw it, and sign my card. Opposed to like 20, because when you're in the majors, I'm sure you went through the routine. You know, there's 20 fans pulling things in front of your face, and it's hard to like get to each item. So like,
yes, sir.
Vernon Wells went right to me, man. And then while he was on deck in the middle of a ball game, he says "You're welcome" and waves at me because I got the behind home plate seats. So that automatically made Vernon Wells my favorite player. Amazing
stand-up guy right there. Stand-up guy, man.
Man, he was great. I loved watching him play, too, before that. So that was the ultimate. He doesn't get much better than that.
For sure. A guy with that caliber.
Exactly. He just gives back to the fans, and that's an important thing. And that's what you're talking about with the whole coronavirus. Wow, what an interview. I'm not even going to get into it. That was probably one of the most favorite interviews I've ever done, sitting here in the Jordan Garber Now chair. But I do want to play back some terrible interviews like me and Shane laughed about in the interview. Coming up next is that terrible fireworks interview I did. My first ever baseball one with Stan Clyburn, and then we'll kind of reflect on that a little bit. Check this out. We are here with Stan Clyburn. Stan, what made you manage Sioux City?
What's the question now?
What made you manage Sioux City?
Well, I had an opportunity to come here from Minnesota. I was with the Twins for 11 years and managed AAA, and they didn't renew my contract after the 2009 season, so I came here to Sioux City, and it's a different avenue, this independent baseball. You sign the guys you trust in, and you hope they go out and perform.
How was your first game ever as a manager?
It was very good. It was back in '88. In fact, Tim Wakefield, a longtime Boston Red Sox great knuckleball pitcher, was my first baseman back in those years, and we made him a knuckleballer, and it turned out good, and you'll never forget your first year to manage. That was in 1988 in Watertown, New York.
How do you think your team played tonight?
Well, we played good. We had to score more than one run. We hadn't scored runs all year long, and when you're on the road, you better score more than one run if you're going to get a victory.
What's your game plan for the future?
Well, we're gonna finish out this year, and then in the off season, look back and regroup and see what kind of ball players I want to sign for next year, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Stan. Take
you.
care. Yeah, like I said, that was a crazy interview with Stan Clyburn. And I remember that was my first actual baseball interview. And when I did that, it was fireworks night at Shaw Park. And there's no other way I could do it, to be honest. This was before I knew how to do some solid audio interviews. And this was before I knew how to even interview wrestlers and things like that. And getting baseball names as well really helps my podcast and myself and my podcast development because, that's a big name still. It's someone who reached the top and reached all that. But I thought it was funny, and I apologize for the horrible audio quality there. But yeah, man, it was one of the funniest and worst interviews I did, but it was really one I needed. And I do want to thank Stan Clyburn for that, as well as everybody else, like Noah Garber, who was on the show earlier. We discussed news there for 30 minutes. That was absolutely awesome. And then we had a great caller calling in. By the way, you guys are more than welcome to be on the podcast or on the show or call in. Just feel free to let me know. And then we had a great wrestling interview with Moses Luke. He really took it away with a solid interview and a great story about the Winnipeg industry. And then we had Shane Youman. He was our main event interview, former Major League pitcher, former Pittsburgh Pirate. He was on Jordan Garber Now, and he stole the show. It was one of the greatest interviews I've ever done. Just, you know what? I'm not going to say the word greatest. I'm going to use the word favorite. It was just overall such a good vibe, and has motivated me to put my foot in the door to step into professional baseball reporting and trying to get a shot in a minor league team in the media category. So that's what I'm looking for. Just like the journey of wrestling, I have two journeys now, and I really think that's a cool factor. I have always watched the game when I was a kid of baseball, and I'm always grateful we always had a team, because there's some cities where some people weren't so lucky. So the city of Winnipeg, I got to thank them for that so far, of them contributing to a successful baseball franchise and organization, which really motivated me to go to the games and then start doing things along these lines. And Josh Renicky was on the podcast before. He pitched for the Twins and the Rockies, and we might even have a separate baseball show. If you guys don't like the two combined, no problem. I can create a baseball product for you all. But in the meantime, this is mostly a wrestling show still. And next week, our main event guest is going to be none other than Molly McCoy. We have Rat Boy on next week, as well as a caller. We're going to take another caller next week. So lots to come next week. Just be sure to check it out and continue supporting the podcast. If you're not supporting the podcast or you don't want to, tell your friends to. Or even if you are supporting it, be sure to bring it up at work, at school, whether you're in college, university, or anywhere pretty much in a social setting. But obviously social distance, because that is a new time now. And man, I just got to recap on that quickly. I'm starting to get nervous because like numbers are hitting over 100 here in Winnipeg. And it's like life is actually good for me right now. I have a good job going. I have a nice place I live at, and I live in a good neighborhood. I have a good podcast. I am interviewing some great guests, and advertising is being successful. So a lot of things are going right for me right now, but just looking at these numbers, it just scares me because all that can change. So you just got to be grateful for every day you live. Wake up, just live for the moment. Don't worry about the past. Worry about tomorrow. Worry about the present. And just got to do that as much as I can and just enjoy doing this ride. And these podcasts, I'm so grateful to say, will be around for quite a long, long time. Anyways, for myself, Jordan Garber and the Jordan Garber Now podcast here in Winnipeg, Manitoba at Now Studios. I hope you guys have yourselves a great rest of your night, and please stay safe out there.